MyKelti Brown just pulled back the curtain on her father's carefully crafted reality TV persona, and what she revealed about those seemingly authentic family moments will make you question everything you've watched for 19 seasons. MyKelti and her husband Tony settled in to watch the season 19 premiere of Sister Wives, probably expecting the usual family drama and Kody's predictable theatrics. Instead, MyKelti started casually dismantling the entire production. That heartwarming first day of school scene with Kody playing devoted father? Completely fabricated. Every single moment of it staged specifically because TLC needed content, and the family had nothing organic happening that morning. Watch Kody fumble through that sequence again with this knowledge, and suddenly everything clicks into place. The man looked utterly lost, making waffles in a toaster oven, squinting at it like he'd never encountered one before. He called his son's school supplies school equipment, like some alien trying to blend in with Earth parents. He brushed Solomon's hair when Solomon is perfectly capable of managing his own grooming routine. None of this represented Kody's actual daily involvement, because Kody doesn't do daily involvement. According to MyKelti, her father simply doesn't participate in morning school routines. He might occasionally drive kids to school, but the hands-on breakfast making, hair brushing, supply checking routine, that's not his world. TLC needed footage of family life, so they manufactured it, and Kody played along despite having no idea how to convincingly portray an engaged parent. The most disturbing detail? Robin waking up Ariella specifically for the cameras. That little girl's confused, resistant response wasn't typical morning crankiness. It was a child waking up to production equipment in her face, forced to perform authentic family moments for network content. What kind of parent prioritizes filming over their child's comfort and privacy? MyKelti's revelation lands differently because she lived this reality. She's not an outside critic speculating about editing tricks or producer manipulation. She grew up in that household, watched her father perform for cameras her entire childhood, and now she's calmly explaining that the man viewers see stumbling through parenting basics isn't struggling because he's charmingly incompetent. He's struggling because he never actually does these things when cameras aren't rolling. Every carefully composed scene showing Kody as the involved patriarch trying his best to manage multiple households? Question it. Every moment positioning him as the concerned father navigating complex family dynamics? Consider what MyKelti just confirmed about manufactured content. But here's where it gets even messier. Those staged parenting scenes represented just the visible tip of a much larger deception iceberg, one that extended far beyond reality TV tricks into genuinely concerning belief systems that affected the entire family's well-being during a global crisis. MyKelti didn't just expose one manufactured moment. She pulled back the entire operational curtain on how Sister Wives creates content when there's nothing real to film. And for women who've spent decades watching reality television, thinking they're seeing authentic family dynamics, this explanation changes everything. TLC operates on a simple principle. They need footage. They need storylines. They need dramatic moments and touching family scenes to fill episodes and keep viewers engaged. When a family's actual daily life doesn't provide those moments naturally, production manufactures them. It's not documentary filmmaking. It's scripted reality packaged as genuine experience. So when Kody and Robin's household had nothing compelling happening on a random Tuesday morning, someone made a decision. Let's film the kids getting ready for school. Let's position Kody as the involved father handling breakfast and hair and supplies. Let's wake up Ariella with cameras ready to capture her precious first day of third grade morning. None of it organic, all of it manufactured specifically to fill airtime. The toaster oven scene becomes almost painful to watch through this lens. Kody genuinely doesn't know how to operate it because he's never made his kids breakfast before. He fumbles with Solomon's hair because he doesn't do hair. He calls supplies equipment because he's never packed a school bag in his life. The awkwardness viewers interpreted as endearing father trying his best energy was actually a man completely out of his depth, attempting tasks that real involved parents do automatically, every single morning. Robin's participation reveals something equally telling. She had to wake Ariella for the cameras, had to push her off to school for the footage, had to participate in this manufactured morning routine, not because it reflected their actual family patterns, but because TLC needed content. And when Ariella resisted, confused about why cameras were in her face the moment she opened her eyes, that genuine reaction made it onto screen, as if it were typical morning resistance, rather than a child's understandable discomfort with being filmed in her most vulnerable moments. Christine's book corroborates these patterns of deception, confirming that what viewers see rarely represents what actually happens in those households. The performance never stops, the manipulation runs deep, and the children become unwitting props in a production that prioritizes content over authenticity or their well-being. Every viewer who's ever defended Kody's parenting because they saw him brush his son's hair or make breakfast just learned they were defending a performance, not reality. Every argument about his involvement based on filmed evidence just got dismantled by his own daughter explaining that none of it reflects his actual daily behavior. But the staged parenting scenes were just surface-level deception. The real damage came from belief systems Kody embraced that affected far more than morning routines and resulted in genuine harm to family relationships during the most critical health crisis of our generation. Christine's book dropped a revelation that explained so much of the family's dysfunction during the final years of their plural marriage. Kody had fallen deep into online conspiracy theories, specifically the toxic corners of the internet known as the manosphere, and it wasn't just casual browsing. This consumed his worldview entirely. For those unfamiliar, the manosphere represents a collection of online communities where men gather to share increasingly extreme perspectives on gender roles, relationships, and society. It's where reasonable skepticism morphs into full-blown conspiratorial thinking, where every mainstream institution becomes suspect, and where isolated men reinforce each other's most paranoid beliefs until they lose touch with objective reality. Kody dove headfirst into this world. He started believing things that simply weren't true, absorbing content that validated his existing biases, and fed him increasingly extreme narratives about how the world actually worked. And like many people who fall into these rabbit holes, he didn't keep it to himself. He wanted Christine to believe it too. He pushed these theories on her constantly, insisting she watch the same videos, read the same articles, accept the same warped version of reality he'd embraced. Christine refused. She wouldn't engage with the conspiracy content. She wouldn't pretend his sources were legitimate. She wouldn't validate beliefs that contradicted basic facts and common sense. And that refusal created massive friction in their already struggling relationship because Kody couldn't tolerate a wife who wouldn't accept his new worldview. The phone body comment that seemed so random during that staged school morning scene, it came directly from this conspiracy thinking. Kody and Robyn had absorbed unfounded health claims from their online sources and treated them as gospel truth, despite zero credible medical evidence supporting their fears. They genuinely believed cell phones in pockets caused testicular cancer and fertility problems, not because reputable research suggested it, but because someone in their online echo chamber said it confidently enough. This pattern extended to everything: health decisions, social interactions, family relationships, political beliefs. Kody filtered every aspect of life through these conspiratorial lenses, and Robyn reinforced rather than challenged his thinking. They became a closed system, validating each other's increasingly extreme positions, while everyone else in the family watched in bewildered frustration. For women who've watched partners disappear into online rabbit holes, this dynamic feels painfully familiar. The man who once engaged with reality becomes unrecognizable. Conversations become impossible because you're no longer operating from shared facts. Concerns get dismissed as brainwashing by mainstream media, and eventually you realize you can't reason someone out of a position they didn't reason themselves into. But nowhere did Kody's conspiratorial thinking cause more damage than during the pandemic, when his warped beliefs about health and safety protocols didn't just strain relationships, they weaponized compliance and turned family members trying to protect each other into enemies in his paranoid narrative. The pandemic protocols became Kody's perfect excuse to isolate, control, and manipulate, all while positioning himself as the only person taking safety seriously. But Christine's book revealed the stunning hypocrisy behind those rigid rules he imposed on everyone else while completely ignoring actual medical guidance himself. TLC required crew members to be vaccinated. This wasn't arbitrary network overreach. Film sets across the entire industry implemented these protocols to protect workers who couldn't maintain distance while operating cameras, managing sound equipment, and coordinating production. Basic workplace safety during a global health crisis? Reasonable, standard, necessary. Kody and Robyn refused, despite network pressure, despite industry standards, despite the fact that their refusal complicated filming logistics and put crew members in uncomfortable positions. They would not get vaccinated. And then, in a twist of logic so backward it defies comprehension, they used everyone else's compliance as justification for isolation. Let that sink in for a moment. The family members who actually followed TLC's requirements, who got vaccinated to protect themselves and others, who did exactly what public health experts recommended, became the dangerous ones in Kody's narrative. He accused vaccinated family members of trying to infect him and Robyn, claimed they were exposing him to the virus by getting the vaccine, which isn't remotely how viruses or vaccines work. Christine was clear about this in her book. The vaccine helped reduce transmission and severity. It saved countless lives during the early pandemic phases. These aren't controversial statements. They're documented medical facts. But Kody and Robyn operated in a completely different reality, where vaccinated people somehow became vectors of disease, and the unvaccinated positioned themselves as victims of everyone else's reckless compliance. On camera, they performed concern about CDC guidelines. They referenced doctors and protocols. They acted like their stringent rules came from legitimate medical authority. Behind the scenes, they were getting their information from the same online conspiracy sources that had already warped Kody's thinking on countless other topics. Sources that spread misinformation, sources with zero medical credentials, sources that told them exactly what they wanted to hear. As family members got vaccinated, the dynamic shifted completely. Suddenly, the people doing what TLC wanted, following actual medical guidance, trying to resume some semblance of normal family interaction, became the villains. Kody and Robin treated them like they were deliberately trying to cause harm. The excuses multiplied, the isolation deepened, the manipulation intensified. And here's what Christine emphasized most. She doesn't believe it was ever really about the vaccine or genuine health concerns. It was just another excuse, another tool for control, another way for Kody to avoid family members he didn't want to see anyway, while blaming them for the distance he created. The family thought they were navigating a health crisis together. Instead, they were being manipulated by someone whose beliefs came from increasingly dangerous online sources, and nowhere was that clearer than in Kody's embrace of one of the internet's most notorious conspiracy movements. Kody didn't just dabble in conspiracy theories. According to Christine's book, he went all the way down the QAnon rabbit hole, embracing one of the internet's most notorious disinformation campaigns with disturbing enthusiasm. His catchphrase, "Where we go one, we go all," suddenly makes chilling sense when you understand it's a QAnon slogan. For anyone who managed to avoid this particular internet catastrophe, QAnon was a conspiracy movement that claimed anonymous government insiders were dropping cryptic messages about secret cabals and political corruption. It gained massive traction, destroyed families, and led vulnerable people into increasingly extreme beliefs completely disconnected from reality. And it was all based on nothing. There's a documentary called Q Into the Storm that methodically exposes the entire con. Filmmaker Cullen Hoback tracked down the people behind the website where these supposed insider messages appeared. He interviewed the creator of 8chan, got close to the father and son who owned the platform, and eventually revealed the truth. A guy named Ron Watkins, the son of the website owner, had no insider government connections whatsoever. He was just making it up to drive traffic to his website. Ron discovered he enjoyed the power. He liked watching people believe his fabrications. He liked the influence and attention, so he kept posting increasingly elaborate conspiracies, and people kept treating his random thoughts as privileged intelligence from shadowy patriots fighting corruption. The whole thing was performance art that people mistook for reality, and it spread like wildfire because it told certain audiences exactly what they wanted to hear. When COVID hit, Ron pivoted to health misinformation. He started spreading false information about the virus and vaccines, based on absolutely nothing except his own thoughts. No medical training, no scientific expertise, no legitimate sources, just Ron typing whatever sounded dramatic enough to maintain his audience's attention and conspiracy-minded engagement. And other people spread it for him. His false claims got picked up and amplified until government officials and media outlets were addressing debunked theories that originated from one guy making things up on the internet. The misinformation pipeline worked exactly as designed, and Kody ended up deep in that field, absorbing these fabrications as truth. This explains so much of his pandemic behavior: the irrational rules, the accusations against vaccinated family members, the complete disconnect from actual medical guidance. He wasn't following science or doctors or legitimate health authorities. He was following conspiracy theories created by someone with zero credibility, who admitted it was essentially a con. Christine watched her husband disappear into this worldview, watched him choose online misinformation over family relationships, watched him weaponize fake health concerns to justify isolation and control. And Robin didn't just tolerate it, she reinforced it, embracing the same warped beliefs that continue to this day, including some genuinely bizarre ideas about everyday technology. Robin still believes, without any factual basis whatsoever, that cell phones cause testicular cancer and drastically affect sperm count in men. McKelty confirmed this ongoing belief, and it perfectly illustrates how deeply conspiracy thinking has embedded itself in that household even after the cameras stop rolling. Let's be clear about the actual science here. Cell phones emit non-ionizing radiation, which does not damage DNA in ways that could trigger cancer. This isn't controversial or debatable medical information, it's basic physics. The type of radiation that causes cancer is ionizing radiation, something cell phones simply don't produce. There have been limited studies examining potential links between phones and male fertility. Some suggested that carrying phones in front pockets might temporarily raise scrotal temperature, which could potentially affect sperm quality in some men, but even those findings remain inconclusive. The research is minimal, self-reported, and unable to definitively pinpoint causation. No major medical organization has issued warnings about cell phone exposure causing infertility in males. The American Urological Association's male infertility guidelines don't list cell phone exposure or radiofrequency electromagnetic fields as standard risk factors, warranting routine evaluation. The World Health Organization continues reviewing potential health effects, but hasn't made any conclusive public determination, suggesting phones pose fertility risks. Yet Robin treats it as established fact. She won't let the kids carry phones in their pockets based on fears completely unsupported by credible medical evidence. And this is the same woman who performed deep concern about CDC guidelines on camera while completely ignoring actual medical consensus about vaccines. The contradiction is stunning. Kody and Robin presented themselves as the family members who took health seriously, who followed proper protocols, who listened to medical authorities, but their actual behavior revealed they only accepted medical information that aligned with what they'd already decided to believe based on conspiracy sources. Everything else got dismissed as mainstream brainwashing or dangerous compliance. For women who've spent decades balancing household budgets and making informed decisions about family health, this kind of selective belief system feels insulting. We know how to research. We know how to evaluate sources. We know the difference between legitimate medical organizations and random internet claims, and we recognize manipulation when someone performs concern about safety while completely ignoring actual expert guidance. Kody and Robin's conspiracy beliefs extended far beyond health misinformation, though. MyKelti's commentary revealed something equally telling about the family dynamics that even viewers who've watched for 19 seasons might have completely misunderstood, particularly about relationships between the sister wives themselves. MyKelti was watching the North Carolina race episode where Christine, David, Truly, Aspen, and Mitch all appeared together, and Janelle made a somewhat passive-aggressive comment about David. That's when MyKelti dropped an observation that reframes years of sister-wife dynamics. Viewers thought they understood. Christine and Janelle wouldn't actually be friends if they'd met under normal circumstances. Their relationship exists primarily because they share children and decades of history, not because their personalities naturally mesh or they'd choose each other as companions given the option. MyKelti broke it down with remarkable clarity. Janelle is a thinker and a pragmatist. She's reserved, analytical, and approaches life from a logical framework. Christine is a dreamer. She's flighty, imaginative, boisterous, and operates from emotion and possibility. They're fundamentally opposite personalities who ended up in each other's lives because they married the same man, not because they would have naturally gravitated toward friendship. But here's the interesting twist. MyKelti suggested that David, Christine's new husband, could probably be friends with Janelle. David has this quality where he genuinely connects with everyone. He's engaging, interested in people, and lacks the arrogance or ego that might create barriers. He's boisterous like Christine, but channels it differently, making space for all personality types around him. MyKelti pushed back against suggestions that David is arrogant, explaining he's just naturally enthusiastic and people want to be around him. If Janelle met them now, outside the context of shared plural marriage history, she might actually connect with David while finding Christine too different from herself for genuine friendship. Christine and Janelle care about each other. They support one another's lives and show up when they can, but MyKelti wouldn't necessarily call them friends in the traditional sense. Their bond is rooted in shared children and decades of navigating impossible family dynamics together, not incompatible personalities or natural affinity. Watch their interactions through this lens and suddenly tensions make more sense. Janelle visibly bristles when Christine offers encouragement or expresses concern. It bothers her when Christine suggests she might need support or when Christine worries about Kody's manipulation tactics. There's pride involved, or something deeper that makes Janelle resist Christine's attempts at sisterly care. The continued filming serves the show's needs, creating content from relationships that might naturally drift apart if cameras weren't incentivizing interaction. But the fundamental incompatibility between their personalities remains, complicated by something even more insidious that keeps Janelle responding defensively to genuine offers of support. Janelle's resistance to Christine's concern reveals something crucial about how cult programming persists long after someone physically leaves the system. And make no mistake, what these women experienced was cult conditioning, designed specifically to keep them compliant, isolated, and resistant to recognizing their own exploitation. Watch how Janelle reacts when Christine expresses worry about Kody's manipulation. She gets annoyed, defensive, like Christine suggesting she needs support somehow, diminishes her, or exposes weakness she can't afford to show. That response doesn't come from healthy independence. It comes from years of programming that taught these women showing vulnerability or accepting concern equals failure. The cult mindset tells you that you're not allowed to feel, that expressing emotions makes you weak, that speaking negatively about the priesthood holder betrays your faith, that needing support from other women proves you're not spiritually strong enough to handle plural marriage. So you claim independence even when you're being systematically used, because admitting otherwise means admitting the whole system failed you. Janelle said something revealing during the season. She mentioned that if polygamy were made legal and men had to actually split assets with multiple wives, men wouldn't want to practice it anymore. Think about what she's indirectly acknowledging. The only reason men do this is because they don't have to share property, resources, or financial security with the women they claim to love equally. She essentially admitted that men use polygamy to exploit women financially while avoiding legal obligations that would force equitable treatment. Yet she stayed in that arrangement for decades. That's not independence. That's a warped definition of autonomy, shaped by cult thinking that convinced her accepting exploitation was actually strength. Christine has moved far beyond this mindset. She's done therapy. She's in a healthy marriage now with David. She's removed herself from the cult programming enough to recognize manipulation when she sees it. So when she expresses concern about Janelle or tries to encourage Mary, it comes from genuine care. She wants people to be happy and protected from abuse. But she's walking an incredibly delicate line, because Janelle, Mary, Kody, and Robin are all still trapped in cult thinking, even though they're not physically in the cult anymore. That programming doesn't just evaporate, it takes years to unravel, and some people never fully escape it. For every woman who's watched someone she cares about stay in a harmful situation while insisting they're fine, Christine's position feels painfully familiar. You can see the manipulation clearly. You want to help, but the person still trapped can't hear you because the system taught them that accepting help means admitting defeat. Christine's journey out of the cult mindset throws into sharp relief just how trapped the others remain. She's done the therapeutic work. She's built a new life with someone who treats her as an equal partner. She's gained enough distance to recognize the manipulation tactics that once controlled her own thinking. And now when she looks back at the people still caught in those patterns, she can see exactly what they can't see about themselves. When Christine tries to encourage Mary or express concern about Janelle, it's not coming from a place of superiority or judgment. It's coming from someone who escaped a burning building, trying to help others find the exit. She genuinely wants these women to experience the freedom and happiness she's discovered. She doesn't want anyone used or abused anymore. But the programming runs deep. In that fundamentalist culture, women weren't allowed to show emotion or express negative feelings about their situation. They couldn't speak against the priesthood holder, even when he was clearly wrong. They had to perform constant strength and independence, even while being systematically controlled and exploited. Admitting struggle meant spiritual failure. Seeking support meant you weren't celestial material. So Janelle's idea of independence became completely skewed. She thinks staying in an exploitative relationship for 30 years while claiming she didn't need anyone proved her strength. She thinks refusing concern from other women demonstrates her autonomy. She thinks recognizing manipulation would make her weak. That's not independence. That's trauma response, dressed up as empowerment. If Janelle were truly as independent as she claims, she would have left decades ago when the patterns became undeniable. She wouldn't still be orbiting Kody's world, trying to maintain connection with someone who never valued her as an equal partner. She wouldn't get defensive when someone who loves her expresses legitimate concern about ongoing manipulation. Christine understands this better than anyone because she lived it herself. She knows how the programming works, how it convinces you that accepting your own diminishment is actually strength, how it isolates you from support systems that might help you see clearly, how it keeps you trapped long past the point when you should have run. The difference now is Christine has broken free while engaging with people who haven't. She's trying to maintain relationships with Janelle, Mary, even Kody and Robin to some extent, but they're operating from completely different realities. She sees the manipulation. They're still performing the scripts the cult wrote for them decades ago. And nowhere is this more evident than in MyKelti's overall assessment of what viewers have actually been watching all these years. MyKelti's revelations force a fundamental question that every Sister Wives viewer needs to ask themselves. How much of what we've watched over 19 seasons was real, and how much was carefully constructed performance designed to fill airtime and maintain network contracts? The continued filming serves TLC's needs, not authentic storytelling. When there's no organic content happening in these people's lives, production manufactures it. They create scenarios, stage interactions, and position family members in situations that never would have occurred naturally. The children become props. Private moments get invaded by cameras. Nothing remains sacred when there are episodes to fill and ratings to maintain. Ariella waking up to equipment in her face wasn't a sweet first day of school moment. It was a child being used for content, forced to perform family togetherness that didn't exist. Solomon having his hair brushed by a father who never does that wasn't endearing. It was fabrication disguised as authenticity. Every supposedly genuine interaction becomes suspect when you realize production actively scripts reality to fit narrative needs. And MyKelti would know. She grew up in that fishbowl. She watched cameras invade her childhood, reshape her family's behavior, and turn private dysfunction into public entertainment. She saw her father perform versions of himself that bore little resemblance to who he actually was day to day. She witnessed the machinery behind the supposedly authentic reality television magic. When the daughter who lived this experience tells you it was performance, maybe it's time to stop defending what you saw on screen and start believing the people who actually experienced life behind those carefully edited scenes. The staged parenting, the manufactured conflicts, the scripted resolutions, the conspiracy theories presented as health concerns, the cult programming dressed up as family values. All of it designed to keep viewers engaged while the real dysfunction festered behind closed doors. Kody and Robyn got to control their narrative for 19 seasons. They positioned themselves as concerned parents following health protocols while actually embracing dangerous conspiracy theories. They performed involvement while doing nothing behind the scenes. They blamed vaccinated family members for isolation they created themselves. They used children as content generators and TLC requirements as manipulation tools. But now the people who lived through it are talking. MyKelti, Christine, the truth emerging from those who know exactly how the performance diverged from reality. And every revelation makes you wonder what else was manufactured, what other carefully constructed scenes we accepted as truth, what additional lies we believed simply because we saw them on television. So here we are, 19 seasons deep into a show that may have been performance art all along, sold to viewers as authentic family documentation.